This episode of Hitched to Homicide contains depictions of sexual assault. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is a victim of sexual violence, please call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-4673, or you can chat online at online.rain.org. All calls are free and confidential.
Beginning in 1972, a man in Australia embarked on a decades-long journey of rape and murder. Each time he was jailed or imprisoned, he was released on parole, only to revert to his murderous ways. His violent spree culminated in charges for the murders of 5 women and girls, but in a shocking twist, one of these 5 presumed victims reappeared alive 4.5 years after going missing, and just before the trial was set to begin. Despite this revelation, many more missing women remain unaccounted for, their fates forever sealed in their killer's grave. This is the story of Lenny Fraser, the Rockhampton Rapist and Killer. Hey y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Potterworth. Welcome to Hitched to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends all the way down under in Australia, g'day.
You're copying me because it's in our case is in Australia today.
I know, I had to change it to the last second when I heard that.
That's a good one. Good day.
Yep.
Well, wherever you're listening, be sure to hit that subscribe button, then like, rate, and review the podcast so other people who love true crime just like you can find us.
Yep.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit that little subscribe button below as well. You can find us on Instagram at Hitched to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. And if you want true crime every single day of the week, please go join our closed Facebook group, The In-Laws and Outlaws. Go to Facebook and type in H2H In-Laws and Outlaws, answer a few questions, and you're in. Go join.
You did all that in one breath.
I think people who are our regulars could probably say it all with me. I try to get through it quickly at the beginning, just in case.
Yep.
But we love our in-laws and outlaws. We now have a Buy Me a Coffee link. If you want to send Rob some coffee, he drinks it every single episode. You can find that link in our show notes.
Do it.
Yes. It's buymeacoffee.com/hitched to homicide.
Yes.
We do appreciate all your coffees, your messages, your emails, even the ones that tell me you don't like something.
Yep.
My shirt. Sorry. Thank you for being with us each and every week.
I actually have a surprise the next time we do something that somebody commented about that they didn't want us to do anymore. So you'll be sorry that you asked us not to do it anymore.
I mean, I'm just saying, do your own true crime podcast if you don't like my shirt or you don't like my graphics or you don't like whatever,
We laugh at it.
We get a kick out of it. We
Yep.
do get a kick out of it. Before I get started on this case today, going all the way to Australia, going all the way around the world, let me thank some sources: Wikipedia, Murderpedia, CrimeLibrary.org, the Courier Mail, Radford University, the Internet Public Library, and the Big Book of Serial Killers by Jack Rosewood.
Oh, that's my favorite book.
There is a book about Lenny Fraser called Things a Killer Would Know, The True Story of Leonard Fraser by Paula Doneman. I did not read it, but I will provide a link to it and all the other sources and citations in the show notes.
Great. Well, you ready?
I am. Let's go to Australia.
Let's do it.
Leonard John Fraser is born in the sugar-growing community On June 27th, 1951, Ingham, North Queensland, Australia, to George and Agnes Fraser. I also read that his mother's name was Daphne, which is a great name. By the way, there's some really crazy words in Australia. Just saying this now. Some of the names of these towns, I looked them up. I did my best. I even followed this woman on YouTube as she went through a bunch of different towns and how people say it wrong and the correct way to say it. I'm going to do my best today, okay?
All right.
Lenny's father was a World War II veteran of Scottish heritage, and he worked for the forestry department. Now, his entire family life is a bit murky. He's the second youngest of 5. His early family life seemed fairly normal. In 1957, when he's 6, the family moves from Ingham to Mount Druitt in the blue-collar outer western suburbs of Sydney.
Okay.
He's going to school, but he's really struggling. He couldn't focus or sit still. Lenny is basically a functioning illiterate. He's been described as a, quote, misfit in a normal Australian family, end quote.
No.
Yeah. He drops out of high school at age 14 and in his second year of high school, and when he leaves, he can barely read or write his own name. So it's unclear if he had a learning disability that kept him from keeping up, or if he just didn't care and no one seemed to notice. I'm just wondering how normal the family can be if everyone is ignoring the fact that a 14-year-old can't read very well or write his own name.
Yeah, I was about ready to say, did anybody notice this?
I don't know. I mean, I did read in one source, they're saying it's a normal Australian family upbringing, but Lenny said that his father beat him. Now, I don't know what the other 4 children had to say about that, but that's what Lenny said.
Okay.
After he drops out of school, and in 1966, and at the age of 15, Lenny is picked up for stealing a gearbox from a parked car.
Wow.
For the offense, he's sent to a boys' home, the Gosford Boys' Home. He's going to be there for a year, and while he's there, he was sexually abused by the older boys, and in turn, he also sexually abused the younger boys.
Oh, man.
Not off to a good start.
No.
When he's released, Lenny gets involved with drug abuse, including prescription drugs, street drugs, and alcohol abuse, which only made him more violent and resulted in some bad decision-making. Because not long after he's released from Gosford, he's arrested and convicted of the assault of a railways guard at Penrith, New South Wales in December of 1968, when he's only 18.
Wow.
He beat this railway guard for making a comment about his girlfriend.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Would you ever beat somebody up if they said something bad about you?
In a heartbeat, baby.
Yeah. Don't beat anybody up.
I'll give them a harsh warning.
You'll give them that red-headed stare.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Yeah.
No, actually, I've seen you come to my rescue. You've stepped in between somebody before.
Yeah.
Don't touch my wife.
There you go.
In 1970, he's picked up for driving without a license and for street fighting. He also steals a car. For these offenses, Lenny is sentenced to 20 months, but he will only serve half of it, 10 months.
Really?
When he's released from jail in October of 1972, 6 months into his freedom, Lenny is found guilty of transporting stolen goods into Queensland, and this will get him 2 years of probation.
Lenny, get a hobby, macrame, anything.
Basket weaving,
Yeah, geez.
crocodile hunting.
There you go.
You're in Australia, right?
Exactly.
But 5 weeks after this, he's sentenced to 2 weeks in a Townsville jail for stealing. It's spelled like Townsville. They say Townsville, just like we say Louisville. Exactly.
There you go.
But he goes to a Townsville jail for stealing.
Okay.
See, I really did look up all these names. I'm not lying when I say these things.
You got this.
Then in 1972, when he's 21, Lenny is fined $100 for living off the earnings of prostitution.
What?
He's actually kind of in charge of several sex workers on the streets of King's Cross. And according to him, he handed over the majority of the proceeds to a, quote, minder. Is that a pimp? Maybe a pimp?
Yeah.
Lenny is going to be involved in many homosexual relationships, but never with any of his alleged workers. Later in 1972, he's given 5 years hard labor in Long Bay Jail for a string of robberies. But before he's caught for the robberies, Lenny has switched it up. He's graduated from burglary to raping women.
Oh, man.
October 17th, 1972, a woman, a 37-year-old tourist who was in Sydney along with her husband and their 2 baby daughters. She's in town because her husband is attending an accountant's convention at Hordern Pavilion.
Okay.
I had to giggle a little bit. How exciting can an accountant's convention be?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the beginning of Old School, Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
When he's at that meeting.
I don't think you can do that. No, it's fine. Just cover for me, okay?
Yeah, anybody can take these notes, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But while this woman is walking through the Sydney Botanical Gardens at 10 a.m., she's there to take photos of the Conservatorium of Music. She passes by a banana tree, and a man comes out of the shadows. He puts his arm around her neck from behind, punched her in the face many times with his free hand, then dragged her into the undergrowth around the banana tree. He tears off her underpants and pantyhose and raped her so severely that this woman would never be able to conceive a child again.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Now, Lenny is interrupted by a passerby, and he takes off with her handbag, leaving the wife and mother of 2 semi-conscious and in a serious condition with multiple fractures to her face. When she gets to the hospital, they have Lenny's sperm. Now, it's 1972, long before DNA.
Right.
But he gets away with this rape. But then not long after, also in 1972, when he's sent to Long Bay Jail for 5 years, he gets no parole for at least 18 months for assault, armed robbery, and living off of these prostitution wages. So he's been sent away, but before he goes, he commits this rape. At 10 o'clock on the morning of July 11th, 1974, just 3 weeks after he's released from Long Bay, Lenny approached a young married woman as she walked along a road in the Sydney outer western suburb of St. Mary's, and he attacks her from behind using what is going to become his, quote, calling card, where he would twist a woman's arm up behind her back. He would force her down on the embankment where he raped her. When he's finished, he's under the delusion that the woman had enjoyed him sexually assaulting her.
What?
Yeah. So Lenny then walked her while holding her hand back up onto the roadway before he takes off. So not only have you been raped, this guy is holding your hand and like walking the street with you for a little bit.
Wow.
Yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah.
6 days later, on July 17th at 9 p.m., Lenny assaults a 20-year-old woman who's working alone in a nearby Mount Druitt dry cleaning shop. He goes in, he asks for his dry cleaning, and then he followed behind her. She goes around the counter. When she goes to look for his clothes, he grabs her from behind, he twists her arm, and Lenny was just about to take her to the floor to rape her when another customer entered the shop.
Oh, bad timing.
So he's interrupted, and he makes a run for it.
Right.
3 days later, on July 20th, at Rudy Hill, again in the same area, Lenny speaks briefly to a woman as she's walking along a road. Then out of the blue, he punches her in the face and twists her arm behind her back.
Yeah.
These two struggle toward this small creek, and the woman remained calm. She's talking to Lenny. She's telling him that she did, in fact, want to have sex with him.
Oh, really?
And that she would happily make love to him. But she wanted to go back to Lenny's house so they could have sex in a bed. And Lenny's thinking, this is great.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Jackpot.
So he walks the woman hand in hand again back up onto the road. And as soon as she sees her chance, she breaks free and runs to the nearest house to call the police.
Wow.
Now, I mean, honestly, it was super smart.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that would work
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
but at the time, super smart.
Yeah, but this guy's no genius.
Well, he's not, because bless his heart, Lenny wasn't hard to find. He left his wallet with his birth certificate in it at the scene of the attack.
The moving finger points at you.
All he needed was one of those spring-loaded pointy hands that you see in the cartoons.
I mean, it's a bless your heart. He leaves his wallet with his birth certificate. Yeah.
Poor Lenny.
Exactly where he tried to attack her. They go pick him up. He's quickly taken into custody. Lenny confessed to one rape and the 2 attempted rapes, without any qualms. He denied that he would have to force the woman in the dry cleaning shop to have sex with him if they had not been disturbed. Quote, I would not have had to force her, end quote, he told the investigators.
What a nice guy.
Quote, she was just about to come across, end quote.
Gee whiz.
What does that mean? She's just about to come across. She's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost convinced her.
No, she wanted it. He's really delusional. He thinks these women want
Wow.
him.
That's scary.
But then he tells the police, oh, by the way, I raped a woman in the botanical gardens 2 years ago.
What?
Yeah, just
fesses
tells them
it up.
off the cuff, yeah.
Wow.
And they're like, whoa, that was out of the blue.
Wow.
And he tells them, quote, I don't know what came over me. I've always regretted it, end quote.
Jeez.
He tells the police that night he'd had an argument with his flatmate where they lived in King's Cross, and he went to the botanical gardens where he just wandered around for a bit until he saw this French woman and decided to attack and rape her. When Lenny's interviewed by a psychiatrist in Long Bay Jail, he tells him that he would be happy if he never saw his brothers or sisters again, and that he hated his father and his mother.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yeah.
because we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
But what Lenny really wanted to do, Rob's going to love this.
Uh-oh.
He wanted to become a Hell's Angel.
We're motorcycle bikers.
That's our persona.
Oh, jeez.
He wanted to be a part of their motorcycle gang.
I'm thinking even the Hells Angels go, yeah, Lenny,
Yeah, I don't think
a
so.
little over the top for us.
In December of 1974, at the age of 24, Lenny pleads guilty to 2 counts of rape and 2 counts of attempted rape. The court psychiatrist gets on the witness stand and says that Lenny Fraser is beyond help. Quote, he has no conscience at all. He will use anyone and anything to his advantage without giving a lot of thought to other people's feelings. He has little or no impulse control, and apart from that, there is no real psychiatric disability there. There is no known treatment for this type of psychopathic state, end quote.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel?
Wow.
Tell us how you really feel, doctor.
Yeah. There's a blinding endorsement.
Yeah. According to this doctor, Lenny had this belief that the women he raped wanted him. They wanted to have sex with him and that they enjoyed it. And by the way, I read in one source that Lenny actually represented himself in this case.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Want to be a Hell's Angel? Want to be an attorney?
Yeah.
The judge, Justice Wooten, takes all of this into consideration and sends Lenny to prison for a maximum of 22 years.
Wow.
He would be eligible for parole in 7 years.
Okay.
But the judge wasn't happy about that either. It was what the law demanded. So when he handed down the sentence, this judge says, quote, but I wish to make it clear in doing so that I am not in any way suggesting that you should be released at the end of the period, end quote.
Boom.
Yeah.
Wow.
When the sentence is handed down, Lenny's mom is in the courtroom and she tells the Sydney Morning Herald, quote, I have abandoned him as my son. I know it is a terrible thing to say, but I can rest when he is inside. I go to bed at night, and when I hear news of an assault or robbery, I know it will not be my Lenny, end quote.
Good grief. Can you imagine?
No, I
thinking about
can't
that about your own
imagine.
kid.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But even though the judge didn't want him released, Lenny is paroled after 7 years.
Are you serious?
Paroled after 7 years
Wow.
and released in 1981. After he's out of prison, he makes his way to Mackay in Queensland and takes a job working on the railways. Lenny is now 30 years old. He's only 30. Half of his life he has spent in prison or reform school.
Right.
Then in 1982, Lenny sees a car for sale in front of a home. He knocks on the door and he gains entry into this woman's house because he's saying, I'm interested in buying your car.
Right.
But once he's inside, he grabs her from behind. He twists her arm behind her, just like he's done before. His plan is to rape her. But somehow, this woman talked Lenny into allowing her to call her husband while the physical assault is happening.
Really?
So all I got to say is these Australian women,
Yeah.
talking him into, let's go to your house instead,
Yeah.
or let me call my husband.
Right.
You know, I just think they're made of tough stuff. Obviously, have you seen the spiders and the snakes that are in Australia? And they all act like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know whether some of those pictures are fake or not, but I see some of those spiders and they're like 2 feet wide.
We're going to get an email from our Australian fans saying, look, Rob, this is real.
Yeah, let me know if that's real or not, because every time I see a picture on the internet, you know, Facebook or whatever, Instagram, and it's these huge spiders on the walls.
Yeah, and
I'm
snakes.
Like, what?
Yeah, just snakes everywhere. Kangaroos in your backyard. Crocodiles.
Yeah.
Seems like a very dangerous place to me. But these people are very well equipped to handle it. And these women are very well equipped, apparently, to handle Lenny.
Yeah.
So she calls her husband. She makes this call. And Lenny takes the phone away from this woman and tells the husband, quote, I hope you're not going to kill me. I just wanted to prove a point that somebody could break in and rape your missus, end quote.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Twisted.
In the McKay District Court, Lenny was sentenced to 2 months in jail for aggravated assault on this woman.
Just 2 months?
2 months.
Wow.
When he's out of jail, Lenny settled in McKay, but in July of 1982, Lenny's grandparents are both killed in a car accident. Lenny is now 31 years old, and he spent most of his life in and out of jail, just like I said, and prison.
Yeah.
But he was really close to his grandmother, and her death had an impact on him.
Right.
So I don't think he cared for his dad, who apparently was beating him.
Mm-hmm.
He's already said he hates his brothers and sisters.
Right.
His mom wants him in jail, but apparently he was close to his grandmother. So when his grandparents are killed together in this car accident, he's pretty devastated. Mm. In September of 1982, he moves back in with his parents that he hates at Hayes Point. And not long after, he meets 26-year-old Pearl Rigby.
Okay.
She's a single mom. He moves in with her and her 9-year-old son, and in an old house that has been converted into flats. He fathers a daughter with Pearl and acts as this little boy's father. And during this time, he manages to hold down his job as a laborer with the Queensland Railings. He's a ganger. That's what they called him.
Okay, so does Pearl know his history?
I don't know if Pearl knows his history or not.
I mean, I'm thinking, are you going to let a convicted rapist move into your house when you have a young child?
Well, and she fathers a daughter with him, too.
Okay, whatever. Yeah. All right.
Well, he works as this ganger. That's what they call him, a ganger on the railways. Mm-hmm. And he does this for the next 2.5 years. And his co-workers nicknamed him Animal.
I'm like a party animal.
Because he was such a partier. Mm. And I thought, if they only knew.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah. But his behavior is beginning to deteriorate. And he's turning back into the old Lenny. Mm. July 1985, a 21-year-old woman named Lisa would take daily walks at an isolated beach at Shoal Point just north of McKay. Lenny sees her and he begins to stalk her for several days while she's out walking. Okay. After watching her, on July 30th, 1985, he attacks her from behind in broad daylight, twisting her arm behind her back. He asks for oral sex, but prematurely ejaculates. Then he brutally raped her and left her for dead. Mm. She goes to the police, and because of Lenny's record and habitual modus operandi, or rape and assault, Lenny wasn't hard to find, and he was sentenced to 12 years in jail.
How much of that did he serve?
Well, this time, Justice Darrington said he regarded the prisoner as a dangerous man who preyed on women who were strangers and alone. Quote, they, meaning the victims, would regard you as being the equivalent of a filthy animal. It, meaning rape, is one of the worst forms of degradation on another human being you can think of, and it deserves no sympathy whatsoever.
Good.
This time, Lenny is sent to Rockhampton's Etna Creek Prison, and while he's in prison, his fellow inmates give him the name Lenny the Loon.
Why'd they call him the Loon?
Because his behavior was unpredictable and chaotic.
Okay, I didn't know loons were unpredictable and chaotic.
No, he's loony.
You're a loon.
Oh,
like the loony bin, Lenny the Loon.
I was thinking of the bird loon.
No.
Hi, I'm Mr. Literal.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry.
No.
Okay.
He would have these violent outbursts, and they were triggered for no apparent reason whatsoever. And the prison lore was that it was wise to give Lenny the widest berth possible.
Wow. Well, listen, if you're going to be in prison, I guess that's kind of a good rep to have.
Yeah, be crazy or be strong, one or the other.
Where everybody just avoids you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Note to self, if I'm ever in prison, don't think of yourself as a bird. Be loony. Okay, go for it.
Or be strong, one or the other, right?
Exactly.
2 years into his prison sentence in 1987, he calms down a bit because he meets a woman. Her name is Betty. But their relationship ended when Lenny didn't make parole. But while he's in prison, he's really active in the prison drug trade and apparently with his pen pals. Now, here's why I'm saying I don't know about hating his dad. Because in October of 1996, he was allowed to fly to Brisbane unaccompanied to attend his father's funeral.
Okay.
What? They just let him go on his own and he's on the honor system to come back?
Hey, do you promise if we let you go to your dad's funeral, you'll come back?
Yeah, I promise.
Oh, man. Okay.
And he does. He returns to jail, which
Really?
was very shocking to me. Yeah, he comes back.
That's shocking.
That's shocking.
Now, while in prison, remember I said he likes his pen pals?
Yeah.
He gets a pen pal named Marie Chivers. Then after serving 12 years of his sentence, his full sentence, Lenny is released on January 7th, 1997. He is 46 years old.
Okay.
When he's out, he lives in a hostel on and off, and he's also living off of unemployment wages. But in mid-1997, he moves in with Marie Chivers, who, by the way, has cancer. And even though Marie has a terminal illness, their relationship turns sexual pretty fast.
Right.
Now, Marie would eventually leave him because of his violent streak, and she moved to Brisbane so she could get treatment for her terminal cancer. But Lenny follows her, and allegedly, he raped her in the hospital chapel. She would die 6 months later. He has never been accountable for this rape.
Wow.
Then Lenny moves to Mount Morgan, a mining town of about 3,500 people on the Burnett Highway southeast of Yeppoon. Hope I got that one right. And near Rockhampton.
Okay.
And as soon as he rolled into town, the people started talking about the strange guy that's now living in their quiet little town.
He looks like a loon.
Who is this guy? Yeah. And while he's there, an intellectually disabled woman, that's what she was called in all the sources.
Right.
She complained to the police that Lenny had annoyed her, bothered her while she was riding the bus. And Lenny was seen out roaming the town at all hours of the night and every day. And when the local school let out, he was waiting at the front gate where he would try to make conversation with any female regardless of her age.
Oh, jeez.
He's Chester the molester.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, he's an animal. I mean, they had it
Yeah.
right. Wow.
I mean, I can remember being in elementary school and a police officer coming into our class and showing us a sketch.
Yeah.
Stay away from this guy.
Right.
Chester the molester.
Yeah.
Lenny would often show up at employment agencies that worked with intellectually handicapped people who were looking for partners. He mowed lawns, he drove children to school for beer and gas money. But in mid-1998, he moves in with Christine Raitt in Rockhampton. She goes by Chrissy. Lenny is now 47 years old. Chrissy is 19 and is also intellectually handicapped.
Oh, man.
He beats and rapes Chrissy. By 1999, another woman moves into the house with them, along with her 11-year-old daughter. They take a spare room in the house to help pay rent, but they soon move out because the mom accused Lenny of assaulting her daughter.
Jeez.
Now, I didn't read that it was a sexual assault, but he did assault her.
Right.
But not long after this, and I'm sorry I even have to say this part, not long after this, Lenny's kicked out of the house by the landlady who claimed that she caught Lenny having sex with her blue heeler cattle dog in the backyard.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
The dog died several weeks later from rat poison.
Oh, man.
So he killed the dog, too. Sorry to all the dog lovers out there. I am so sorry.
Scotty, don't listen to it.
Don't listen. Cover Scotty's ears. It's bad.
They're covered right now.
And this guy he really is an animal. September 2nd, 1998, 14-year-old Natasha Ryan disappears on her way to a North Rockhampton school. Lenny stabs her, allegedly because she was pregnant with his child. I think that is his version. Then he placed her body in a grave he dug on a property outside of Rockhampton. Lenny worked with 39-year-old Julie Dawn Turner for a couple of months in 1998 at the Rockhampton slaughterhouse. She'd told a friend that she was moving in with a guy named Lenny, but didn't tell them anything more. Then on December 28, 1998, Julie left the Airport Liberty Club in Rockhampton in the early hours of the morning after a night of partying. Julie's intoxicated. She's also penniless, so much so that she asked around for enough money to catch a cab home. And when she couldn't get one, she starts walking. She's never seen again. Lenny was giving her a lift home, and when he placed his hand on her leg, when he made a pass at her, she slapped him. So he beat her to death near a police boys' club and left her sandals near an electrical box.
Wow.
He then dumped her body near the Yapoon refuse dump.
Man.
Beverly Doreen Lego, age 36, meets Lenny at the Mount Morgan hostel where he stayed in 1997. Beverly was last seen on March 1st, 1999, at a bank in the Central Business District near the East Street Mall. He took her for a swim at Nankin Creek outside of Rockhampton. Then he smashed her across the jaw. She is semi-conscious. He puts a rope swing around her neck twice and tucked the end through the loops and pulled it tight. He basically hangs her. And when she stops kicking and she's dead, he pulls her back onto the grassy shore, put her black bra and panties around her neck and pulled them tight. So if she really wasn't dead, if she woke up, she wouldn't be able to breathe.
Wow.
Sylvia Marie Benedetti, age 19, goes missing on April 17th, 1999. She's last seen on April 18th, 1999, sitting in the Rockhampton City Mall with Lenny. She was unhappy and going through a bad time with her boyfriend. He took Sylvia to a rundown hotel, to room 13. He tells her that that's where he has his drugs stored. And when he tried to kiss her, she didn't like it, so Lenny hit her and knocked her out. Then he went to see if anyone was around to hear her scream. He goes back into the room, and she's lying there staring up at Lenny. He picked up something with a serrated edge, and he, quote, bled her like an animal, end quote.
God.
He made a bloody handprint on the wall and had to smear over it. Partial remains of her body will be discovered by surfers in the bushland near Sandy Point Beach, but her blood is going to be in his car. Then just days later, on April 22nd, 1999, 9-year-old Kira Steinhardt disappears while taking a shortcut through a vacant lot on her way home from school. It's 3:20 p.m., and Kira has left Berserker Street State School to walk home to her mom.
Okay.
It was only the second time that she had ever walked home on her own.
Wow.
She walks down the street, turns right onto Robinson Street at North Rockhampton High School. Kira's mom is Teresa, and she had a baby brother named Connor. This is the same area where Natasha Ryan goes missing.
All right.
Lenny attacked little Kira, striking her on the head before raping and then killing her. A woman named Lynette Kierman lived across the street from the vacant lot where he takes her, and she tells police that she saw a man catch up with Kira and hit her on the head. She said the little girl fell to the ground, and she couldn't see her in the long grass, but she did see the man fall on her and move as if he was raping her.
Jeez.
Then she tells police the assailant ran away and came back shortly with a car, lifting the little girl from the ground and into the trunk and driving away. The problem is, and according to one source, Miss Kierman waited 20 minutes before she called the police.
Yeah, what's up with that?
She was afraid to make an anonymous phone call to the police. But by the time she did call, little Kira was dead, and Lenny had disposed of her body.
Wow.
Then on April 21st, 1999, a man who owned a shop opposite this rundown hotel where Lenny had raped and murdered Sylvia Benedetti tells Lenny, kind of off the cuff, yeah, that hotel across the street, it's going to be demolished. And Lenny got really angry. He got red in the face and said to this guy, quote, they can't do that, end quote.
Okay, I'll tell him.
They're going to find my crime. I mean, he's thinking they're going to find my crime scene.
Sure.
So while he's like talking to this guy about the demolition happening, this is all going on at the same time when he has raped little Kira. Because the next day, the police traced Lenny through Mrs. Kierman's description of his early model red Mazda 626 sedan. And they go and pick him up.
Okay.
So not only did Miss Kierman see everything happen, she knew the kind of car he was driving. So when she did call police, she did give them that much.
Why did she wait so long, though?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
She was afraid. She was afraid.
I don't care if you're afraid. I mean, she's inside her house.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
I know.
Okay.
While police are searching for little Kira's body, they get a call to come to a rundown Queensland hotel where wreckers had made a horrific discovery. In room number 13, the carpet was soggy with blood and there was blood sprayed all over the ceiling and walls.
Jeez.
There were bone fragments in the carpet and in a downstairs freezer. Now, mind you, this freezer is not hooked up to anything. This is an abandoned hotel. Police find a pair of women's shoes submerged in filthy water. A forensic examination told them the blood was human, and police believed the blood belongs to Sylvia Benedetti. Police also now think there's a serial killer loose.
Yeah.
The attack was so savage that the victim had lost about 4 liters of blood, which was just about as much as a woman the size of Sylvia would have in her entire body.
Gee.
Police believed that Sylvia knew Lenny. She was actually seen with him on the night before she disappears. Now, tests of the blood found in the trunk of Lenny's car are going to match that of the blood found in the room. It's too early for DNA,
Right.
but they can match the blood type.
Okay.
When he's questioned by investigators, because they go pick him up, they know his car.
Right.
When he's questioned by investigators, Lenny's flatmate, Chrissy Raitt, remember her?
Yeah.
Said that she had gone for a drive with Lenny along a bush track near Rockhampton's race course on the day that Kira had gone missing. And Chrissy said that Lenny stopped the car and told her not to watch what he was doing.
Okay.
And she said that she did watch. And he removed what looked like a blonde doll wearing a green school uniform from the trunk. Chrissy said that when Lenny saw her looking, he dropped what he was carrying. He went back to the car. He reached into the window and he punched her in the face.
Jeez.
She then looked straight ahead. And after a little while, Lenny got back in the car and drove away. Chrissy said that when they returned home that evening, Lenny washed out the trunk completely. Now, samples were taken from the blood and hair found in the trunk of Lenny's car, and those matched Kira Steinhardt. There was also another female's blood on the trunk hinge and on a cigarette paper in the glove box.
Oh, man. Does he want to get caught?
Yeah, well...
Yeah. Leaving stuff everywhere.
So they've picked him up. They've got him in jail. They're hammering him every day, but it's going to be 2 weeks before Lenny actually breaks and confesses to Kira's murder. Then he takes the police to her little naked body. He had abandoned it on a thick bed of grass near the Rockhampton racecourse. He propped her up against a tree in a creek bed. Her throat had been cut, and her green school jumper was placed over her naked body.
Wow.
The girl's body was so badly decomposed that they couldn't get much evidence from it.
Oh, that's sad.
On May 7th, 1999, Lenny Fraser was charged with the rape and murder of Kira Steinhardt. Throughout the trial, Lenny didn't call for and didn't offer any evidence on his own behalf except to steadfastly deny at the start that he had neither abducted, raped, or murdered Kira, or that he was in or near the lot on the day in question.
Even though somebody saw him and saw the car.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Lenny.
Yet when police originally charged Lenny with the crimes, he'd offered up an apology to Kira's parents saying, quote, "I'd like to say to her mother and father, and I know a lot of people won't believe me, but if you check my background, it's not my go-to to harm a child. I'm just sorry this is happening, and I don't know what it made me do it. At least I can try to. I'm going to try and get help after I get sentenced and all. So that's a good step," end quote. He also took the police to her body. And now he's saying, well,
Wasn't me.
It wasn't me. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Wow. Nice try.
The evidence, of course, was overwhelming, to say the least, and Leonard John Fraser was found guilty of the abduction and murder of Kira Steinhardt at Rockhampton on April 22nd, 1999.
Good.
A year and a half later, on November 9th, 2000, it's time for Lenny to be sentenced again. Justice Ken McKenzie labeled him a sexual predator of the worst kind. Quote, "The offense involved severe, indeed extreme violence on a child. Fraser's story is that of a sexual predator of the worst kind," end quote.
Right.
Justice McKenzie said that he could see no reason to suppose that Lenny had any prospect of rehabilitation and sentenced him to an indefinite life sentence.
Merciful, sweet Jesus, thank you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, somebody finally got it right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Under new Queensland legislation enacted in 1997, an indefinite life sentence means that unlike a life sentence where the prisoner could automatically apply for parole after 15 years,
Right.
he must not only apply to the parole board, but also to a Supreme Court judge before he could ever be released. So both will have to be satisfied that Lenny no longer poses a threat to the community
Right.
before it's lifted.
Okay.
It's basically a death sentence.
Sure.
Because Lenny would have to live out the rest of his days in the Woolston Correctional Center at Wacol in Brisbane.
Good.
Now, police believe that Lenny murdered not only Kira Steinhardt, but Natasha Ryan, Julie Dawn Turner, Beverly Doreen Lego, and Sylvia Marie Benedetti. But no body, no confession, no crime.
Mm-hmm.
But while Lenny is confined to prison for the rest of his life, he takes to telling his cellmate, Alan Quinn, about how messed up he is. How everything that had, quote, gone through has caused me to kill these people. All the hate over the years came to the fore, and it ended with the murder of the people, end quote. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
I've just been treated terrible my whole life, and I'm taking it out on everybody else, so it can't be my fault.
It's my circumstances.
His cellmate, Alan Quinn, is like, I'm going to go tattle.
Yeah.
He goes to the authorities in prison and says, "You want to know something? You want to hear something?"
Yeah.
So police confront Lenny about what he said, and Lenny shocked everybody by offering to take them to the bodies.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, "It's true. Let me take you to the bodies."
Jeez.
And in this top secret operation, homicide detectives took him out of prison and flew him on a private jet to Rockhampton and secretly video and audio taped Lenny as he led them to the remains of Beverly Lego and Dawn Turner.
Wow.
The partial remains of Sylvia were discovered by the surfers, remember?
Yeah.
But Lenny couldn't lead them to the rest of her body. But what about Natasha Ryan? Police were convinced that Lenny had murdered her too. And while they're getting their information together to take Lenny back to court for more charges and for more prison time, he was there already forever, but I guess they're going to charge him with these murders.
Right.
A really interesting thing happened. On Thursday, April 10th, 2003, the case takes a sensational turn when one of the alleged victims, Natasha Ryan, is discovered by police hiding in a cupboard at the home of her boyfriend, 26-year-old Scott Black, 1 kilometer from her mother's home in Rockhampton.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Police said that they acted on a tip arising from the trial. Natasha was 14 when she went missing. She's now 18.
Okay.
And she just walked away.
Wow.
And everybody assumed that Lenny had raped and killed her.
Okay.
Because it was, she was walking home from school and boom, she's gone.
Yeah.
But despite this media frenzy, there was no real explanation given for Natasha Ryan's disappearance and reemergence 4.5 years later. Instead, the story was put up for grabs to the highest bidder. Natasha went back to living with her mother. It was rumored that Natasha wanted $250,000 for her story.
Wow.
And all that her father, Robert Ryan, who was separated from Natasha's mother, could tell the local press was that he believed his daughter had been dead for 4.5 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. Quote, I couldn't stop cuddling her. It was like I saw a ghost, end quote.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he thinks his daughter's dead, and his daughter is letting her parents think that she's gone, that she's dead.
Well, if she wasn't, then she probably will be after her parents get a hold of her.
Well, she's
Jeez.
18 now. She's an adult.
I don't care.
She does go back and live with her mom.
Yeah, okay.
But the detective in charge of the case said that when Natasha Ryan went missing in 1998, they actually searched her boyfriend Scott Black's home, but they didn't even come up with anything. There was no indication that there was a female there at all. Detective Hickey, who was in charge of this case, said that a surveillance team was assigned to Mr. Black's house and also to observe his comings and goings and the people that he associated with, but there was nothing whatsoever to connect him with the disappearance of his girlfriend, Natasha Ryan. So the court immediately declares Lenny not guilty of Natasha's murder.
Okay.
And then his attorneys want the whole case thrown out. Because it was all 5 of them, right?
Yeah.
But after 4 days, Justice Ambrose came back and said there's going to be a trial for the other victims.
Mm-hmm.
So the trial resumes on April 15th, 2003, and Lenny's former cellmate gets up on the witness stand and says that Lenny liked to brag to other inmates, quote, they're trying to get me on these murders, but they won't be able to pin them on me, end quote. And Alan Quinn even went on to say that Lenny lied to him, saying that he did murder Natasha Ryan with a knife that would, quote, never be found, end quote. Lenny told his cellmate that Natasha had asked for a ride to the beachside township of Yeppoon and that he'd knocked her out after she fell asleep on his shoulder in the car. He told his cellmate that he'd disposed of her body under a mango tree and that it was removed by a mystery man named Casper, who moved the body to Yamba.
Okay.
But Lenny lied about a lot to his cellmate.
Yeah.
He said that he'd murdered a female backpacker and had dumped her body in a crocodile pond in an abandoned wildlife park north of Rockhampton.
Wow.
Only after police had dug up the pond and searched the farm extensively did they realize this is a hoax.
Yeah.
His cellmate said that Lenny also boasted about how he drove his pickup truck, his ute, which is short for a utility vehicle. They call a pickup truck a dumpster in Australia.
Okay.
But he drove his ute with the body of one of his alleged victims, Julie Turner, in the back after he had covered it with a tarp past the police car
Wow.
in Rockhampton.
Wow.
But authorities wired up Alan Quinn and listened to him confess to murdering Beverly Lego. So they're like, okay, you've given us this. Alan, we're putting a wire on you. And when
Right.
you're talking to Lenny, just know we're recording you.
Right.
And this is when he confesses to murdering Beverly Lego. And Lenny laughs and says, quote, you should have seen her kick when I let the rope go. This is the girl that he basically hung with the rope swing.
Right.
I heard her neck break, and then she stopped kicking and her legs dangled in the water. It didn't take much to kill her because she was really skinny. I took the rope off of her and dragged her through the water hole and into the long grass where I put her on the ditch. I made sure that I pulled the tall grass back up as I went so there was no trail left behind. To make sure she was dead, I put her black sporting briefs around her neck and pulled them tight so if she woke up she wouldn't breathe, she would die, end quote. And they also have a tape of him talking about bleeding Sylvia Benedetti like an animal, which I will not repeat for you.
Right.
During this whole circus of a second trial, Natasha Ryan takes the stand as a witness for the defense. This, of course, after selling her story to 60 Minutes and Woman's Day magazine.
Sure.
She told the court that she'd never seen Lenny before in her life. She told the court that on August 31st, 1998, after getting in trouble at school, she decided to run away and stay with Scott Black, and she'd been with him ever since. Then before the prosecution closes the case, they tell the court, Rob's going to love this, that Lenny had sent the police a press release from a Mr. Squeaky.
That was the best name he could come up with.
Mr. Squeaky, in an attempt to throw them off his trail.
Okay.
Quote, I want you to understand that I am responsible for the murders in the Rockhampton area, end quote. Mr. Squeaky said in the release, and by the way, it's produced by Lenny, and he's doing it from prison. Of course, Lenny doesn't know that the detectives were recording his and Alan Quinn's conversations about the release.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. So Mr. Squeaky writes, quote, you will never know my real name. You can refer to me as Squeaky, it read, end quote.
Wonder how he came up with that.
But here's the thing. Mr. Squeaky's release had information about the murders only known to the killer.
Right.
And obviously, Lenny Fraser's alter ego is Mr. Squeaky.
Right.
And his plan failed miserably because it has all this intimate information that only the killer, who is Lenny, and not even the police knew about.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
They found out days later that forensics, well, wait a second. That's what kids stay in school.
Yeah.
Stay in school. This is what happens.
Yeah, he didn't quite think that one all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They found out days later that forensics showed that Beverly Lego was strangled with her black bra and panties, just as Mr. Squeaky had said.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go to the police boys club where Mr. Squeaky said he murdered Julie Turner, they find her sandal and her bra. Mm. The prosecution pointed out that all Mr. Squeaky's confession did was really incriminate Lenny Fraser further.
Yep.
On May 9th, 2003, after little more than a day's deliberation, the jury convicted Lenny of the murders of Sylvia Benedetti and Beverly Doreen Lego and the manslaughter of Julie Dawn Turner. The verdict of manslaughter meant that the jury believed that Lenny did not intend to kill Julie. But Lenny stood silent and red-faced, yawning and stretching. Yeah, stretching his arms behind his head as the verdicts were handed down. He's like, okay, whatever.
What? I mean, the arrogance of this guy.
The day after Christmas, 2006, Lenny complained of chest pains. I'd be like, sorry, dude.
We'll get back to you.
We'll get back to you soon. But he was taken to the secure wing of the Princess Alexandra Hospital in Wollongabba, which apparently they call the Gabba. But it's here that Lenny Fraser died on January 1st, 2007.
Oh, wow.
Of a heart attack.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, here's the scary part. When they went to Lenny's home after he was arrested for the murder of Kira Steinhardt, detectives found 3 ponytails of human hair in Lenny's bedroom. So he kept trophies from his victims. But the problem is, none of these ponytails are linked to any of Lenny's known victims.
Wow.
So even though there were 4 known victims, there were more missing women who were murdered by Lenny. Jeez. And he took it to the grave with him. Yeah. He never confessed before he died, although he claimed to have murdered an additional 5 other women in his criminal career. He said it was a hitchhiker by the name of Sandy Lawrence in an abandoned crocodile zoo, but they went and looked for her and it wasn't there.
Right.
A 17-year-old Aboriginal girlfriend claiming he had slit her throat in the back streets of King's Cross in the early 1970s. 2 female hitchhikers in separate incidents in the Port Macquarie area in New South Wales in the 1970s. And detectives remain convinced that Lenny had a hand in the murder of a Rockhampton woman named Michelle Coral Lewis, who was 21 years old, who disappeared on the night of January 14th, 1989, after leaving a friend's home in North Rockhampton.
Okay.
Lenny remains a suspect in up to 8 unsolved disappearances of women in Queensland and New South Wales, even though there have never been any remains found. But that is the story of Lenny Fraser. Not a good guy.
No.
He's burning. His feet are hot right now.
Yep.
And that's all I have to say about that.
I think the most amazing thing about this case is the fact that he did all this stuff in the very beginning, and he just got very little jail time,
Yeah.
even though they knew that this guy was unstable.
Yeah.
And then they knew that he was assaulting women, and he still got a little bit of time.
Part of that is the time. It's the era that it happened in.
Sure.
So the 70s and 80s, because by the time they were really catching up with him, they had changed the laws, and it was like, we can keep you in here forever.
Yeah.
And not only they still had parole, but he had to have two different entities say that he was okay to leave. They were never going to let him out. They were never going to let him out that last time.
Did they ever diagnose him? I mean, was he schizophrenic?
He was a psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a psychopath.
Wow.
He was angry. He was a psychopath, and he wasn't very smart.
Yeah.
He wasn't very smart. And I think the one psychiatrist who said he used people, everything was to his advantage. He used every situation and every person to his advantage. I think that's exactly right.
Right. Wow. Well, speaking of not very smart, let's do a little Bless Your Heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number one, I'm calling Runaway Juror.
Runaway juror.
Yep, a 20-year-old juror in a felony shooting case had to go before the judge herself after skipping deliberations to take a vacation to Cancun, Mexico.
Oops, can't do that.
No. Ivana, I can't even pronounce her last name.
We'll just call her Miss Ivana.
Yeah, let's just call her Miss Ivana because I would butcher that last name.
You mean like I butchered all of those towns in Australia?
You did good. All right. Miss Ivana admitted she knew it was wrong to leave town, but said she'd saved a long time from her part-time job to pay for the 9-day family vacation to Mexico, and she wasn't going to miss it, reports the Milwaukee Sentinel.
We know Milwaukee.
Yeah. After she disappeared, she did call the court clerk from the airport to say she had left her vote with the jury foreman.
I know I'm not there, but I know how I feel.
Yeah. Miss Ivana faced a stint in jail, but caught a break when the judge only fined her $300.
Yeah.
She said, I don't know if it was worth it, but I did have a good time in Cancun.
No.
Yeah, Miss Ivana said after the contempt hearing. The defendant in the gun trial, Spartacus Outlaw, and his lawyer, that's his name.
Spartacus Outlaw.
I guess.
Okay.
And his lawyer agreed to proceed without Miss Ivana, saving the expense and delay of a mistrial. The jurors convicted Outlaw of being a felon with a gun, but couldn't reach a verdict on the charge of first-degree reckless injury with a dangerous weapon. The missing juror's brother, Bojan, Miss Ivana's brother, I'm going to say,
Yeah.
told the judge, I guess it's just one of those situations where, blank happens.
You know, I have a quick little story. I got called in for the Mike Tyson trial. I was living in Indianapolis at the
Really?
time. And
You never told me that.
it was going to happen while I was planning on going skiing in Aspen. And I walked in and I was like, here's my plane ticket. Here are my reservations. I have paid for this trip. I have to go skiing.
Yeah.
I got dismissed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, not cool because of what happened, but yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah. Number 2. Big mistake, Bigfoot.
big mistake. Big.
Yep. This one is both unfortunate and stupid at the same time.
Okay.
A 44-year-old Montana man was killed after he was struck by 2 cars while trying to impersonate Bigfoot.
Oh my gosh.
Montana State Police said Randy Lee Tenley, 44, was wearing a military-style camouflage gorilla suit in hopes of creating a Bigfoot hoax. Tenley was struck after police said he darted onto the highway at 10:30 at night.
Oh.
Yeah, police are waiting to get toxicology reports to see whether Tenley had been drinking. Montana Highway Patrol Lieutenant Colonel Butch Hughesby told the Los Angeles Times, quote, "This is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, really."
Yeah, it's a Darwin Award, you know?
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Number 3, and finally,
Finally,
on second thought.
on second thought. Okay.
Thanks, Ed McMahon. A New Mexico inmate escaped his jail cell by breaking a window bar with a razor blade and a popsicle stick, but changed his mind once he got outside.
I'm blowing this popsicle stand.
That's what it was. Very good, honey. Carlos Garcia told police it took about 5 months to break the bar on his cell window. He also used plastic, newspaper, and more popsicle sticks to fashion a fake window.
Wow.
Yeah. The Hobbs Sun reports, I guess that's their newspaper, that Garcia changed his mind and climbed back into his second-story cell using a bed sheet. Garcia is serving time for 2 murder convictions
Oh, wow.
and other crimes. But he wanted back in. Go figure.
It's rough out here.
I guess. Jeez.
I have seen some of the things that prisoners have made out of like a shank out of plastic stuff, you know.
Toothbrushes.
When I tour jails and stuff, they like to put it all out on a table and like, well, this is what we've confiscated, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen on the shows that I watch, you know, they'll take a newspaper and they'll wet it down and wrap it tight and let it dry and wrap more around and make a sword.
Very, very resourceful in prison.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, bless his heart.
Yeah.
Really bless the heart of fake Bigfoot man.
Oh, my God. Poor guy. Poor idiot.
And if you have a bless your heart, all you have to do is go to hitchtohomicide.com. There's a pull-down menu there, and while you're there, you can also suggest a case and tell us about your brush with true crime.
Please do.
That's my amazing husband out there.
That's my beautiful bride in the booth.
Join us next time on Hitch to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.